Enes Kanter. Now, Enes Kanter Freedom is a brand new American citizen. He's a Boston Celtic. He's a human rights advocate. He's spoken out against LeBron James, against NBA players who criticize America, but most importantly, against authoritarians in Turkey and China. He has put his money where his mouth is. It's possible that his future in the NBA could be in jeopardy. And I asked Enes Kanter Freedom about all of that in a conversation that I think you will find unique, fascinating, and I hope you will share. Enes Kanter Freedom, man, it's been quite some time that I've seen you in person, and we've got to talk a few times over the airwaves on Fox News, but I don't think I've got to sort of man-to-man say this yet, but congratulations on becoming an American citizen.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. First of all, thank you for inviting me. And second, finally, actually it's crazy. I just got my passport in the mail yesterday, literally just yesterday. And last time I had a passport, it was like five years ago, and it was revoked by the Turkish government. But now, finally got it. So,
how does it feel, Enes, to be an American?
Oh man, remember first time coming to America? That was my dream. I was actually told one of my teammates was like, "Listen, man, this country is amazing. It gives you everything you need to become the best person and best anything you want to be." And I was like, I want to be a part of this. And he's like, well, I mean, all you have to do is just apply for a green card. After you got that, you're going to become a citizen. I was like, well, that's my dream. And it finally happened this year.
Enes, I lived in New York for like 15 years, and one of the advantages of living in New York is you get to know people from many different walks of life and many different places in the world. And I remember talking to a couple, friends of ours, who the husband was South African and the wife was Italian. And of course, South Africa and Italy are countries with advanced economies, and there's many things you can do in the world. You can achieve wealth and some measure of freedom, but yet they talked about what it meant to become an American. And one of the things they said that surprised me, and I hadn't really considered as a born and raised American, was, yeah, in a cliched way, it is that sense you can do anything. But when you really press them on, well, can't you do that in Italy? Can't you do that in England? The answer was maybe by law, but by culture. There's certain things that limit you. In other words, if your dad did this for a living, there's an expectation you will do that for a living. Or even class in a place like England, you won't move from class to class. So when you first came to America and you had this idea, what would you say, like, what is it that somebody like myself, who was born in a small town in Texas and lived in America their whole life, and you having grown up in Switzerland and Turkey, what is it that I don't get that you've experienced that makes it special or unique to be an American?
I actually have a very funny story. I actually told this to media a few times, but I remember coming to America for the first time. I was going to a prep school in Simi Valley, California. And I remember it was back in 2009, and something happened. And one of my friends posted something on his Facebook about the president, right? And I saw it. I was like, dude, what are you doing? And he was like, what? I was like, you are criticizing the president. The police going to come and take you to prison. And he turned around, he started laughing like really hard. He's like, dude, don't worry about this. It's not Turkey, this is America. And I just I couldn't understand what he's trying to say. I was like, what do you mean? So he tried to explain it to me about what is freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of religion, freedom of press. Because where I grew up in Turkey, right, is a wild story. I tell this to people don't it's so hard to even believe it. I have a manager, and my manager is married with a Turkish woman. And my manager's wife's dad liked one of my posts on Twitter. He was in jail for 14 days just because he liked one of my posts on Twitter. So I'm coming from a country where when you're criticizing the government, your passport going to be revoked, your name's going to be on Interpol list. They're going to pretty much declare you as the enemy of the state, terrorist, and everything to destroy your image just because of you criticizing the government, right? I have 10 arrest warrants for me less than 4 years just because of what I talk about the issues that are happening in Turkey. often have a conversation with my teammates, and I'm trying to tell my teammates, I'm like, I understand like there are so many obviously problems that are happening, not just in Turkey, but all over the world, America included. But you guys should feel blessed to be in this situation. Feel very lucky and blessed because there are rules and laws, there are checks and balances. So it's like people need to understand like how lucky, and they shouldn't take it for granted because this is the best country that they can live in.
Enes, there's a lot of things I want to talk to you about today. I want to talk about Black Lives Matter. I want to talk about the Uyghur population in China. I want to talk about China and its relationship with the NBA. And I want to talk about Turkey. But I also want to start with this. You're in a difficult position, but a position you've chosen to be in. And for that matter, you've chosen to be in some difficult positions for the better part of a decade. But right now, the choice you're making to speak out, for example, against LeBron, against the NBA, the choice to appear on Tucker Carlson, maybe the choice to appear with me today on a Fox News podcast, puts you in a difficult spot.
Yeah.
Because I see the articles written about you by people at The Nation or Jamel Hill at The Atlantic. I see the criticism. I talked to you in the past on air about potentially what it's like in the locker room. But before we get into each and every one of those issues, I kind of want to ask you, what is your purpose? What are you doing? Why are you speaking out? What are you hoping to help people to understand? Why are you choosing to put yourself in this position where one could say there's not a great win out of this for Enes Kanter Freedom?
Even like when I go to, Congress, and I go to like once every like couple of months, I literally sit down and talk to everybody. And people are like often very shocked about like, okay, you talk about freedom, you're going to meet with this guy, you're going to meet with that guy. I mean, I go and meet with, like Kevin McCarty, and next day I go meet with Adam Schiff, and next day I go talk to Mitch McConnell's office, and next day I go with this office, that office, right? So like, I think what I'm trying to do is there is an amazing message out there, right? And I want every part of the country to hear this story, hear about what's going on. And when I'm even telling this to my teammates, I'm like, listen, I don't do politics. I'm a basketball player. I don't understand politics. I'm with politicians every day. Yes, that's true. I'm talking to them every day. We are trying to come up with some ideas to how to stop tyranny all over the world. That is true. But I don't do politics. I do human rights. There's a difference. There's a big difference, So when people see me with talking to this, politicians, both sides, Democrats and Republicans, the people are telling me, dude, focus on your game. You do too much politics. And I'm like, when did I ever say we should vote for this guy? We shouldn't vote for this guy. No. So my message is, it doesn't matter. I mean, I go sit down and talk to anybody. Like you said, Tucker Carlson, Wolf Blitzer, I go talk MSNBC, I go talk Fox, I go do it. The thing is, I want every part of America or the world to hear the story that I'm telling, because everyone needs to hear this story. And obviously, I mean, those criticism is going to come with it, because when you are obviously picking one side, I'm not picking a side. When you are, decided to go on an air with the right wing, the left wing is going to get mad. If you do the opposite, then the other side going to get mad. But my thing is, like, I never go on the air and pick a side. I go on the air and say, listen, you look at all my interviews. I go out there and say, listen, there are so many human rights violations are happening everywhere in the world, and we should stand up for it. And if one of the organizations, associations, companies, players, or whoever, celebrities, are not doing it, we need to hold them accountable. And that is my message. And I want every part of the country to hear this message. So criticism, I could care less, Obviously, they have their freedom. They can just say whatever they want to say. But my message is never changed. My message is to stand up for innocent people. That's it.
For the full podcast, go to foxnewspodcast.com.